During today's webinar, we will talk about the EHLS program, the English for Heritage Language Speakers program, what it offers, its requirements. We will get into details about the application process and talk a little bit about the skills testing. We will also take questions and answer any questions you have about the application process and provide some wonderful tips that we have for you all. So this is just our agenda for today. So I'm going to share a little bit about the program itself and just a brief overview before we dive deeper into the actual application portion of it. So an introduction to the EHLS program. EHLS is a scholarship program with a focus on professional English communication skills and career skills. The program trains advanced speakers of English to be effective communicators and strong candidates for federal jobs. It is hosted at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Every scholar admitted to the program receives a full scholarship funded by the federal government. The program is 8 months in length. The first 6 months are full-time on Georgetown's campus, downtown campus. And then the final 2 months are part-time conducted online. Participants are native speakers of critical languages who have a strong interest and commitment to public service. EHLS scholars come from diverse cultural, educational, and professional backgrounds, but are all united by an interest and commitment in public service. So you might be asking, well, why EHLS? EHLS was established because critical language skills are in high demand in the US government. There are other government-sponsored scholarship programs out there that teach critical language skills to native English speakers, but this is a one-of-a-kind program that's designed to prepare individuals with native or first language knowledge of critical languages for the federal workplace environment. So a brief background on the EHLS program and kind of the history of it. EHLS is a partnership among 4 different organizations. The National Security Education Program, or NSEPT, provides the funding. The Center for Applied Linguistics, where I work, oversees the instruction and coordinates the language testing. Georgetown University provides the instruction, and then the Institute of International Education, IIE, where Rosalie works, oversees the application process. And EHLS was started in 2006, and 2022 will be our 17th program year. So we are so excited. This has been a really wonderful program to work on. And we're so excited that it just keeps, getting out those really wonderful scholars. So the scholarship for the EHLS program is awarded through the National Security Education Program, NSEPT. NSEPT is administered under the Department of Defense's Defense Language and National Security Education Office, or DELENCIO. Each scholarship provides full tuition and fees for the 8-month academic program, in addition to a living stipend. So $3,600 per month during the first 6 months of the program, and then $1,200 per month during the last 2 months of the program. For scholars who are moving from outside the Washington, D.C. area, NSEP can reimburse you for up to $1,000 of those relocation fees, as long as you provide the receipts and all that kind of good stuff. Other wonderful benefits of the program is health insurance through Georgetown University, a laptop computer on which to complete your EHLS assignments and in which you get to keep after the end of the program, a certificate from Georgetown University upon successful completion of the academic program, and that in itself opens up many wonderful doors to our scholars. And then scholars, when they accept the terms of the scholarship, they agree to the terms outlined on the screen. So full-time attendance and successful completion of the academic program, agreement not to work during the full-time portion of the academic program, and then acceptance of a 1-year service requirement after completing the academic program. And we're not really going to discuss much about the service requirement, but if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us via email. So I've told you a little bit about the benefits and the history of EHLS, but I haven't told you who's eligible for the program. So to be eligible for the EHLS program, you must be a US citizen at the time of application. You must be a native speaker of one of the 24 languages listed here on the screen, and you must have professional level proficiency in that language. Our languages this year include Arabic, Azerbaijani, Balochi, Bambarar, Dari, Farsi, Khas, Hindi, Kazakh, Korean, Kurdish, Kyrgyz, Mandarin Chinese, Pashto, Punjabi, Russian, Somali, Tajik, Tamashek, Thai, Turkish, Urdu, Uzbek, and Vietnamese. You must also have advanced level proficiency in English. Your proficiency both in English and your native language will be formally tested. We will discuss that later in detail in the presentation. You must also have a bachelor's degree, and that bachelor's degree has to be equivalent to a bachelor's degree in the United States. And we'll also talk about that a little bit later. Rosalie will address that. You must also be able to use internet, word processing programs, PowerPoint. You have to be able to really navigate using digital platforms. You must commit to the full-time day program from January through June in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University's campus in downtown D.C. And our intentions currently is that this program will be held in person come January 2022. So at this time, we anticipate the program being in person. And you must be willing to work for the federal government for 1 year in a position with national security responsibilities. And it will be your responsibility to find that position. So some really important dates to be aware of and to keep in mind as you're starting your journey of applying for EHLS. The application is currently available at www.ehlsprogram.org. The deadline for the application and supporting documents is 5 p.m. EDT on July 8th. And July 8th is a Thursday, I believe, this year. Once the application is submitted and considered complete, the applicant will be invited to schedule an oral proficiency interview in English. The OPIs will be administered through July 23rd, 2021. But we highly recommend submitting your application and scheduling an OPI as soon as possible so that you can secure a time and date that works well for your schedule. And we're going to talk more about that OPI later in the presentation, so hold your questions until then. EHLS staff will also notify applicants who have been provisionally selected of their status in September, and those who were not provisionally selected will also be notifying you as well. So some candidates will be provisionally selected and they will move on to the skills testing. In late September to early October, provisionally selected candidates will complete language testing in Washington, D.C. This will likely happen in D.C. Again, due to the pandemic, we can't, 100% say for sure, but at this time, we are planning for those tests to be taking place in person. And the dates that you would have to be present in DC, and you only have to be present for one of these dates, is Saturday, September 25th or Saturday, October 2nd to take the English language proficiency test, or as we lovingly refer to it as the ELPT. And it also, as well as a basic computer skills test. You will also have to complete an additional oral proficiency interview in your own native language. Again, due to the pandemic and the safety measures, we'll determine once we get closer what protocols we'll be taking. But at this time, we do anticipate those testing times to take place in person in DC. EHLS staff will notify candidates of their final status in late October to early November, and the program starts January 10th, 2022. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Rosalie to talk to you a little bit about the application process and what to expect.
Thank you, Chelsea. So as I said before, I work predominantly on the EHLS application, and if you have any questions about that, I am your best point of contact. So now we're going to dive in a little deeper on how to apply for the EHLS 2022 program. So as you can see, we consider the application process to be broken up into 2 stages, and within each stage there are different steps. So in stage 1, there are steps 1 through 3, which are to submit your application as well as any supporting documents, and you will also need to complete your OPI in English. And in stage 2, you will go ahead and take all of your skills tests in Washington, D.C., receive notification of your results and your application status. All right, so as you can see here, this is a diagram of stage 1, and there are various requirements here. It is to complete your application, confirm that all necessary supporting documents have been submitted, and complete an OPI. And one thing I did want to mention is that anybody who starts an application and submits it will be in stage 1, but not everybody will make it to stage 2. All right, so here you can see some more information on the application and supporting documents, and we'd love to inform you to be sure to complete all sections of the application. It will not be considered complete unless you fill out everything. Please upload your supporting documents, the resume and transcript, to the application. Do not just email it to me. You will need to upload that yourself to the application. Please be aware that any foreign degree must be evaluated, and you will need to contact a credential evaluation service for this evaluation, and you will then need to upload that evaluation to the application system. Evaluations can sometimes be a lengthy process. It could take up to 2 months, so you should start early to avoid missing the application deadline of July 8th. You must also select 2 or 3 professional references, and these will be people who will write a recommendation letter for you. You will enter that person's contact information into the online application system, and they will go ahead and proceed from there. You do not need to collect the letter from them. They will get an email from the application that you will write, and then they will go ahead and fill out their form and upload their letter. If possible, one recommendation should be from your current supervisor if you have one. You might also consider former supervisors, colleagues, or professors. We just encourage you to keep it professional and do not use family members or personal friends. It should be somebody who can speak to your ability to work as a student or as an employee. You will receive an automated email confirming that submission of your application is processed. And when you have submitted your application, it will be reviewed for completeness by IIE staff. So what this means is we'll go ahead and take a look, make sure, is your resume there? Is your transcript there? And if your transcript is from a foreign institution, is the evaluation there? If the evaluation is not there, we'll give you an email. Please go ahead and upload that evaluation. That's an example of what goes on during technical review. So once you have passed the technical review, you will go ahead and receive another email with step-by-step instructions and a link for scheduling your OPI in English. And you will only receive that once your application has been considered acceptable, it is eligible to move on by IAE staff, and also that you have one recommendation submitted. All right, so now I'm going to dive a little deeper onto where to find the EHLS application. So for many of you, this web page screenshot will be very familiar. This is our EHLS website, and the circle in blue will show you where to go for how to apply. And you can go ahead and just access this right now. It's all open, it's all available. So if you're interested in applying, click on that how to apply. All right, so once you've clicked on that, it's going to take you to a page that outlines the components of the application, including the documents required, the 5 steps, and a timeline for this application cycle. And to create or continue an application, you'll go ahead and click on the blue circle online application form, which is found under the section, the components of an application. And I did just want to give a heads up that yes, this presentation is very comprehensive. We're going to give a lot of important information, but you will want to check out this website because it has a ton of extremely helpful information regarding the application. And it is just a wonderful source of help for you during this process. All right, so if you've clicked on the link from the previous screenshot, you'll be taken here. This is our actual application, and you will go ahead and start an application. So if you have never started the application, you'll go ahead and click Create an Account. So if you already have started an application, and that means for this year, if you have already applied from past years, you will still need to create a new application. So if you are not new, you already started the 2022 application, you will go ahead and click Login, and be sure to click on that link every time you want to return to your application from now until July 8th. You'll go ahead and log in with the same email address, input your password, all of that. So please note, as I said before, that this year's application is independent from previous year's applications, so you will need to create a new application this year. If at any time in the application cycle you forget your password, you can go ahead and reset it by clicking the Forgot Password link, and this will trigger an automated email to be sent to the address that you have entered. And you will go ahead and make sure to check your junk or your spam folder because sometimes the email could be sent there if you don't see it in your regular inbox. All right, now let's take a look at how you would create that new application. So when you click on the Create an Account link, you will be asked to register with your email address, first and last name, and birth date, and then you'll go ahead and click Continue. Once you've clicked Continue, please check your email with your temporary login credentials, and please make sure you check your spam folder. As I said before, the email could be there. Enter your temporary PIN and birth date and click Login. You will then be prompted to create a new password. And once you've created that new password, click Set Password. You will now be able to start your application by clicking Start New Application. Once you have selected the Start New Application button, you may go ahead and proceed to create your application. Click on the EHLS application option and then open the application. This will take you to the first page, which is shown here, and that displays information regarding the program. Click Continue and you'll be taken to the eligibility page. And as a reminder, you must meet all 3 of the eligibility requirements, which are you must be a US citizen, you must be a native speaker of one of the listed languages, and Chelsea already read those out, but they're on the application too. And you must also hold a bachelor's degree. And as a reminder, you must have the US equivalent of a bachelor's degree. If you got your degree from, let's say, India, you will need to have that transcript evaluated by a professional service, and that evaluation must show the US equivalency of at least a bachelor's degree. I know some of you have master's, PhD, other degrees, but you must have at least a US bachelor's. So please note that if you do not meet all of the criteria, you will be unable to continue with the application. And just so you know, if you select yes, but you don't actually meet that, it will come up later in the application. So there is really no incentive for you to try to lie on the eligibility page because you will not be able to fill in all the required information later on. So after selecting your eligibility, you will be able to proceed with the application. And as a reminder, the deadline for submitting your application is July 8th, 2021 by 5:00 p.m. Eastern Time. So with that, I will go ahead and open the floor for any questions. I think we have received some already.
Yes, we have a few questions in the question box. Rosalie, and I will read them off to you. Particularly, they are mostly in regards to if you are a dual citizen, can you apply for the program? I'll let you take that one.
Sure. Yes, you can still apply for the program. That is fine, but you must be a U.S. citizen.
Mhm. And then we also had a question in regards to US citizen. Can you apply for the program while you're also doing your citizenship process, interviewing and all that kind of stuff?
So this is a little tricky. Technically, yes. However, you must realize that if you're not accepted for U.S. citizenship by July 8th, then you will not be eligible for the program. So if you are towards the end of your process, you have your interview scheduled, all of that, that is looking pretty good. If you are just now starting the process, that is not looking very good for you. And you can always reapply next year. We will have the program next year. Hopefully the languages won't change. They don't always change. Sometimes they do. But we would encourage you to just reapply if you're at the very beginning of that process.
Mhm. And a rule of thumb that we kind of stick to is as if you have your naturalization ceremony in hand on the deadline of July 8th, usually we can make some exceptions, and as long as you provide us proof after your ceremony. But we do need you to be a U.S. citizen at the time of applying. Rosalie, we have a question in regards to from all of the languages listed, are there certain languages to give like preference to? And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and take that
Sure.
one. So particularly, there is no preference to languages, and speaking one language over another one or speaking multiple languages, it doesn't advantage you in any capacity. We, regardless of the languages, are interested in all of the 24 languages. And so there are places for those individuals as EHLS scholars and within the federal workplace environment. So no preferences to a certain language. So. And Rosalie, feel free to also add if you had anything with that one.
I think you covered it. I do see a couple chat box questions. So I see that we've been asked if somebody has a US master's, do they still need to evaluate their foreign bachelor's? No. You can go ahead and upload your highest degree. Sorry, that was something I should have mentioned previously. If you do have a US master's or higher, you can go ahead and just upload that. That will be sufficient. It's just that we need you to have at least a bachelor's, but if you do have a US degree that's higher than a bachelor's, no need to have that other one evaluated.
And Rosalie, we have another question that kind of piggybacks off that one. Which, in regards to a bachelor's equivalency and doing the equivalence, getting your degree evaluated, do you prefer a general or a course by course transcript evaluation?
Sure. So we do not have a requirement. It is totally up to the applicant. However, I will say it is sometimes nice for the reviewers who will look over your application and judge whether or not you should receive an award. Sometimes they like to see the course by course just so they can kind of get a feel for you as a whole. However, you're not at an advantage if you opt for that. I know the course by course is more expensive. So we do not prioritize one over the other. The reviewers are not told you need to prioritize this over this. Everything is looked at equally, so it is completely up to you which one you choose. It just needs to show that you have at least a US bachelor's degree or you will not be eligible.
This is a good question. Rosalie, does the US transcript have to be an official transcript?
We can take a look at that. We usually prefer the official transcript, but it just depends on what document you have. If it's an unofficial transcript, but it clearly shows that you attended the school, your name, graduation date, major, everything we would need to see, it could work. If it's a document that seems to not fully show all the information we would need to see, then we would likely need the official one.
All right. And do we have any, I'm not going to pull up the chat box, but do we have any more questions in the chat box, Rosalie?
Yes. However, I'm not 100% sure what the applicant is inquiring. The question is, what is the date for next year's day if this one is missed? I believe that is referring to the 2023 application deadline, maybe?
Yeah, so our 2023 application will open in January of February of 2022, and the deadline will be somewhere in the beginning of July of 2022. So that's for the 2023 program. So if you're looking for the next program, our application cycle is on a very similar schedule every year. So keep that in mind. And at this time, we are going to move on to the further into our presentation, and we'll get to other questions as we progress through the presentation. So I'd love to share a little bit with you all about that oral proficiency interview in English. So once your application is submitted and been tech reviewed by Rosalie and her team at IIE, and you have at least one of those recommendation letters, you will then receive that automated email that you're invited to schedule an OPI, an oral proficiency interview in English. An applicant cannot schedule that OPI until they have completed all the components of their application, it's been submitted, and it's been reviewed by Rosalie and her team at IIE. So the link and step-by-step instructions on scheduling that OPI in English will be emailed to applicants upon successful review of that application. The OPIs are administered through Language Testing International, LTI. The OPI is a live 30 to 45 minute telephone conversation between a certified tester and a test taker, and that test taker is you. Through a series of personalized questions regarding someone's academic, professional, or personal experience, a sample of speech is elicited and rated in accordance with the ILR scale, the Interagency Language Roundtable scale. That is the federal government scale for language proficiency. Candidates can only choose to have the OPIs proctored remotely or virtually. Due to the pandemic, we're only offering remote proctoring options. A remote proctor test can be taken anywhere, wherever you are, you can take it as long as you have a computer and can connect to Wi-Fi and all that kind of good stuff. You will have a virtual proctor who will be responsible for the security of your test. Once they will ask to see your environment, you'll show them around the room that you're testing in. The proctor will give you the contact information then at that time to call the OPI tester. And you will do that via your own telephone. The OPI is still, a telephone conversation, and you'll get more information in regards to the OPI when you're invited to schedule it after you submit your application and it's been reviewed. Some things to note: that the test taker is responsible for providing the necessary technology. That includes a computer. We recommend a laptop. That includes a webcam, telephone, strong telephone connection, and good Wi-Fi connection or internet connection. The test taker must review the technology requirements, download any software, create a profile, prior to the actual OPI, and that's with their remote proctoring service. And you'll need to log in 20-ish minutes before the actual OPI to connect with that proctor and do a virtual environment scan and show your ID and things like that. So the OPI will be administered through July 23rd, 2021. However, your application must still be submitted by 5 p.m. on July 8th. We suggest that you submit your application as soon as possible so that you can secure a date and time that works well for your schedule, and so that you are not feeling rushed at the very end to get it in. That can be pretty stressful at times. So we had a question in the question box in regards to how many people are selected, and then also about how many people are provisionally selected and selected. So every year we get somewhere between 200 to 300 applications, and we provisionally select 40 to 80 candidates to be invited to skills testing. That's 40 to 80. This is traditionally a day-long test. That test will be administered on either Saturday, September 25th, or Saturday, October 2nd. And you only have to be present at one of those Saturday dates. And again, we are anticipating this will happen in person due to the pandemic, though. We are, being nimble and flexible with our approaches. But at this time, we anticipate it to be in person. The candidates will only need to be present for one of those dates. And the English Language Proficiency Test, or the ELPT, tests your listening, reading, and writing abilities in English. You will also need to complete another oral proficiency interview in your native language. The OPI is given over the phone, proctored via webcam, just like we discussed. And we also don't recommend scheduling that native language OPI on the same day as your ELPT, because that day-long testing is quite cognitively demanding. So you will also be tested on your abilities to do basic computer skills, to be able to navigate different platforms. We strongly encourage you to practice your technology skills. We have provided resources, including a checklist of skills and a list of skills that we require on our website. It is really crucial that you consult the website and check out those resources. And Rosalie and I will share with you how to get there in just a minute as well. EHLS staff will extend offers of admissions into the EHLS program in late October to early November. We anticipate selecting only 15 to 20 individuals. So every year we have 200 to 300 applications. We provisionally select 40 to 80, and then only 15 to 20 individuals actually get admitted to the program. And the sweet spot lately has been about 18 scholars every year for the past quite a few years. And we only do one cohort a year. So the ELPT is composed of 3 parts, which test your English abilities in listening, reading, and writing. The listening portion is a 1 hour and 5-minute multiple choice test. It tests your English listening abilities. The reading test is a 2 hour and 15-minute multiple choice test that tests your English proficiency in reading. And then the writing test is an essay test. It takes about 1 hour, 60 minutes, and it's 3 different essays that you type on a laptop. These tests will evaluate candidates' general proficiency in English. Test questions cover general interest topics and common social professional situations. There is no sample test or materials available for review. To prepare for the test, we recommend reading the newspaper, listening to the news on the radio or TV or on your phone, and using English and your native language in discussing current events in professional contexts. You should be prepared to utilize the following skills in the technology portion of the tests: word processing tools, file management, accurate keyboarding skills, presentation software, internet navigation, and then also emailing. We will pause at this time to answer any questions in regards to the ELPT before we move on to the oral proficiency. If you have any questions in regards to the ELPT, feel free to ask them at this time. It looks like both of our questions in the Q&A box are not exactly applicable to the ELPT, so I'll wait to answer those until the end. But I'll wait just one more second, and if we don't have any questions, we'll just go ahead and move on to the oral proficiency interview in your native language or your first language. All right. So in regards to that oral proficiency in your native language or first language, provisionally selected candidates will take an additional oral proficiency interview in that native language. As with the ELPT, items on the OPI are general interest topics, common social and professional situations. The OPI is given over the phone. Yeah.
We just got a question about the ELPT,
Yeah.
which is the ELPT a standardized test?
The ELPT is owned and operated by the Department of Defense. And so it is a Department of Defense test. And it's not applicable. Like, for instance, many of you might be familiar with ACFIL or might be familiar with the TESOL tests. Our test isn't aligned with those tests, and so therefore we can't, they're not aligned, so we can't take other language scores in regards to that. The test itself is aligned to the ILR scale, which is the federal government's proficiency scale, and so we have to give a test that is aligned to that scale. So, all right. Any other questions? Thank you for catching that one, Rosalie. So moving on with the oral proficiency interview in your native language or first language. One thing I would like to know for applicants with native or high proficiency in multiple languages, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, on the online application, list the language which you are most proficient in. In many cases, this is going to be the language of your education. For example, a speaker of Uzbek and Russian who completed his or her college education in Russian, we would likely recommend for them to put Russian and take the oral proficiency interview in Russian. But it is up to your discretion in that particular topic. And so just be sure that you have professional level proficiency in that language that you list as your native or first language. So I want to share, we've kind of mentioned this interagency language roundtable scale. And so I would be remiss if I didn't share a little bit about this scale with you all today. All 5 of the EHLS tests are rated on the Interagency Language Roundtable Proficiency Scale. Broadly speaking, this scale references the tasks that you are able to complete, your vocabulary, your control of grammar, and your length of production. Here is the ILR scale. The ILR scale has 6 base levels, 0 through 5, with plus levels in between. The best possible score on the ELPT is a 3. And the OPIs in English, I have not seen something that has gone above a 4 before. But other languages can go as high as a 5. To qualify for the EHLS program, you will need to receive a score of at least a 2, which is limited working proficiency on all 4 English language skills. That's your listening, reading, writing, and speaking English test. You will demonstrate your English speaking during the first stage of the application, that oral proficiency interview in English. This is a change from some previous years when we didn't do the OPI at that time. We had waited for this, but we decided to front load that OPI process in English. You will need to receive a score of at least a 3 at least, in your general, which is general proficiency, and that is in your speaking native language or first language. So for English, you need to get a 2, at least a 2 in your listening, reading, writing, and speaking abilities in English. For your native or first language, you must get at least a 3 in that test. And we only test your speaking abilities in your native language. However, just do keep in mind that during the program, you are required to do research in your native language or your first language and other potential languages that you speak. So, you're going to want to be able to read and write as well. But we only test you in your speaking proficiency of your native language. So I would love to share a little bit about that ILR level 2 with you all, that limited working proficiency. So what does a 2 look like? What does a 2 even mean? Well, it means that the individual will be able to satisfy most routine social demands and work requirements. They will be able to narrate and describe the 3 major timeframes, make comparisons, and then also deal effectively with complicated situations. You should be able to navigate most informal and some formal settings and have a range of concrete topics of personal and general interest to talk about. The individual will be comprehensible to speakers who are unaccustomed to dealing with non-native speakers. They will be able to produce paragraph length content and writing. So those are just some key things in regards to what an ILR level 2 looks like. In regards to that ILR level 3, and I should also mention in regards to the ILR level 2, there are some native language speakers who wouldn't even crest over from a 2 to a 3. So just keep that in mind as well. So what does a 3 on the ILR scale mean, and what does it look like? Well, this particular individual will speak the language with sufficient accuracy and vocabulary and will be able to participate effectively in most formal and informal conversations on practical, social, and professional topics. They will be able to discuss topics extensively and hyperbolize, support opinions, and deal with linguistically unfamiliar situations. Individuals will be able to navigate most informal and some formal situations. They can navigate a very wide range of concrete topics and some abstract topics with special fields of interest and expertise. Errors almost never interfere with communication or distract the native speaker from the message being conveyed. They will be able to produce extended discourse and conceptual links between paragraphs. So you'll be able to do those howevers, additional, therefore. So that is kind of more or less what I mean when I refer to an ILR level 2 and an ILR level 3. I will pause here for questions in regards to the ELPT, the ILR scale, or the oral proficiency interview. There's a lot of additional information on our website and then also on the government's website for the ILR scale. And if you even just Googled ILR scale government, you'd find some things there too. So at this time, I'll pause to see if there are any questions.
Chelsea, I know we've gotten some questions on this that you've already answered, but I think it may be helpful for the group if you could answer the question of if somebody has already taken an OPI in English, will they need to take it again for the program?
Yeah, so in regards to the oral proficiency interview in English, if you've taken it previously in the last 2 years or less, and you can provide proof of that via the certificate you received or via a signed company letterhead. If you can email that to us at ehls@cal.org, we can address that at that time. Now, if you took the test with us last year, when you get invited to schedule an additional oral proficiency interview, it will prompt you there. If you've already taken this test last year, please let us know. And so at that time, just email the ehls@cal.org email, and we'll go back in our records and check that and make sure that we do actually have that in hand. So just be in contact with us in regards to that OPI. More than likely, if you took the OPI with us last year in English, you won't have to take it again, more than likely. However, I can't say for sure until I get that email and I see those scores and that kind of stuff. So, right. So it looks like we have a question. What are exactly the subjects which will be taught in the program during the 8-month program? So Nora, I appreciate that question, but this webinar doesn't talk about the academic program. However, we have the general information webinar on our YouTube channel, and then also on our, it's linked on our Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So go ahead and go check out that, and you can get some detailed information in regards to that. And then you'll also get some detailed information on our website. But just briefly, you would take oral proficiency, oral communications course, reading and writing for professionals, news analysis, and then also a career skills development. But there's more in-depth information regarding that on our website. I see. I have a question in regards to, I have taken some graduate courses at different schools, but they are not a degree seeking. Should I submit transcripts from those schools as well? Rosalie, would you like to take that one?
Yes. So if you do not have a bachelor's degree and that is the only university schooling that you have, you will not be eligible for the program. If you already have a master's degree, bachelor's degree, any other degree, and this was just kind of a supplement, you definitely do not need to upload transcripts. You might mention it on your resume or in the application somewhere if you'd like to, but we don't need to see transcripts for that.
And then we have another question in regards to a name change. When would their name would be different on some of their documents compared to now, and then when they got citizenship, which name should they use, and or what should they provide if they have different names on their documents?
So I guess it depends on what documents have what name. You could always go ahead and use your name that's on your transcripts if you wanted to, whichever name that you feel comfortable. If you have a name that you go by now, that's your preferred name, go ahead and use that on the application. And if that's different from the name on your transcript, that's fine. Just write us an email. Let us know about that. If you have a document showing the name change, you can send that, you can email that to me and we'll keep it on file. You don't need to attach it necessarily, but you can go ahead and email that over to me and my contact will come at the end of the presentation.
And so we have a question. Does the proficiency levels of native language play an important role for being selected for the program? This is a really insightful question and a really good question. And what I'll say, not all of the native or first languages that are tested go above a 3. And so we don't give, if you get a 5 on your Russian speaking test, that doesn't advantage you over someone who received a 3 in maybe Arabic. We don't, because we're only requiring them to get at least a 3 or a 3+, and not all of the tests go above a 3. We can't, give any, my words today. We can't give any like advantage to those who had the opportunity to take a test that went above a certain level. So there are no discrepancies there. All right, so we'll go ahead. Feel free to put any questions you have in that Q&A box, but we'll go ahead with the rest of the presentation. So here are some tips that Rosalie and I have for applying for the EHLS program. And I'll hand it to Rosalie to talk about this one.
All right. So during stage 1, we would advise you to use information from your resume to complete the employment section of your application. The information you fill in the application should be consistent with your resume to make it easy for the application reviewers to understand your educational and work history, as well as to explain any gaps you may have in employment. Please gather transcript documents as soon as possible, because if your transcript is from a foreign institution, you will need to have it evaluated, as we said. Ask for your references early as well. You will need to list 3 references and their contact information, and then you will send them an email directly through the application system itself. They will fill out a reference form and submit their letter. They will need to do this on their own. Once you put in their information, that will be the end of your part of the references. So you input their information, click send on the email that you write in the application itself, and then you're done. And it's up to them to submit. If they're not submitting, you can go ahead and email them, remind them, but you will not collect any materials, as I said earlier. We also recommend that you submit your application sooner rather than waiting so that you can get your OPI scheduled. But I do want to say that if you're starting your application now, you do obviously have plenty of time until July 8th. So please do not rush and think that you have to finish your application, next week. You can take your time, but just make sure to keep in mind that July 8th deadline. And if you're ready to submit, you think your application is good to go, then go ahead and do that and don't wait until the last minute. All right, and some more tips for stage 1 are to write specific and detailed essays, because it is very, very important that you clearly demonstrate your interest in working for the federal government, as well as why does the EHLS program fit in with your goals, your language goals, your career goals. You really need to think about why do you want to be in this program and demonstrate that in the essays. All right, this is a screenshot of the EHLS program website. There are selection criteria definitions that the reviewers will be using to assess each criterion. So please be sure to review the definitions so that you know what the reviewers will be looking for. As I said, the website has a lot of really helpful information, and the fact that you guys get access to what the selection criteria is, that is a very huge help. So please take advantage of that. And I will hand it back to Chelsea.
Thanks, Rosalie. So in regards to stage 2, for those of you who might be invited to stage 2, be sure that you have the necessary computer skills needed to complete the writing test by referring to the information and links on the EHLS website. We have a link to a document listed here. Please carefully review the information in the document. You're going to be able to find that on our website. Here's a screenshot of it. That's the link down there at the bottom, how to apply step 4 skills testing. And then all the way at the bottom, there's a portion of preparing for the tests. And there is the computer skills self-assessment where you'll be able to gauge your computer skills and if you have the necessary skills. So at this time, please find us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, and follow us on LinkedIn as well. We post regularly on those platforms. We keep those platforms very up to date. You're able to contact us through it. And we share some really wonderful articles and other things on there. So follow us along on social media. Also, Rosalie, myself, and our colleague, Maria will be doing weekly live Q&A sessions with all of our applicants who would like to join us starting September 7th, so less than a week from today, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. EDT. Rosalie, myself, and Maria will be on a live Q&A Zoom session answering your questions. You have something that comes up that week and you don't want to give us a call, you don't want to give us an email, jump on a Zoom call, join us for an informal kind of chat every Wednesday at 2. Also, to keep in mind, we have special guests that stop into those live Q&A sessions. And so some of those special guests are going to be the current EHLS director, our assessment specialist, our academic coordinator at Georgetown, our former EHLS scholars. We have some really great special guests planned for our live Q&A sessions because they're so informal. We're able to kind of just have casual conversations. And so feel free, please join us for one or multiple of those live Q&A sessions. And we won't be telling you who the special guest is until the actual showtime. So there's a little bit of mysteriousness about it. So we look forward to seeing you at any and all of our upcoming EHLS virtual events. We love conversating and answering your questions. And if you have more questions, feel free to email us. Here is my email information. And if you have questions about the OPI scheduling, language testing, there's my contact information. If you have questions about the curriculum, the schedule, or Georgetown, contact our colleague, Maria. And then I'll let Rosalie send us off for this afternoon.
Yes, as I said before, I am your contact for anything about the application itself. So if you're having problems with it or you have a question about the materials, anything you can come up with about the application, you will contact me and you will see my information below. I will say if you're having an error with the application, you should email me instead of calling me, because if you call me, I'll tell you to email me with screenshots. So if you have a technical error, please try to get screenshots or pictures with your phone, email me and I can help you. And thank you so much for being here today. Looking forward to working with all of you throughout the summer and the spring too.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.